I am from the group 6. So for today, we will gonna bring you to the world of Norse mythology. So without further ado, let's get started.
Hi, it's me, Refan, and me and my members going to talk about God, goddess, myths, and legend of origin of the Norse mythology. Let's start. What is Norse mythology? Norse mythology or Scandinavian mythology is the body of mythology of the North Germanic peoples, stemming from Norse paganism and continuing after the Christianization of Scandinavia and into the Scandinavian folklore of the modern period, the northernmost extension of Germanic mythology. Norse mythology consists of tales, various deity, beings, and heroes derived from numerous sources from both before and after the pagan period, including medieval manuscript, archaeological representation, and folk tradition. Numerous gods are mentioned in the source texts, such as the hammer-wielding, mankind-protecting god Thor, who unrelentingly pursues his foes, the One Eye, Ravenflank, the god Odin, who craftily pursued knowledge throughout the worlds and bestowed among mankind the runic alphabet, the beautiful sword-working, feather-cloak-clad goddess Freya, who rides to battle to choose among the slain, the vengeful skiing goddess Koi, who prefers the wolf holes of the winter mountain to the seashore, the powerful god Njord, who may calm both sea and fire and grant wealth and land. Sorry, I don't know how to pronounce this word, god Njord. But the god Freyr, whose wither in a farming association bring peace and pleasure to mankind, the goddess Lone, I think it's Lone, who keeps apples that grant eternal youthfulness, the mysterious god Heimdall is a silent R, I guess, who is born of 9 mothers, can hear grass grow, has gold teeth, and possess of resounding horn. The half-god Loki, who brings tragedy to the gods by engineering the death of goddess Freyg's beautiful son Balder, and numerous other deities. Some of the examples of the Norse mythology: the northernmost extension of Germanic mythology and stemming from Proto-Germanic folklore, Norse mythology consists of tales of various deities, beings, and heroes. Wow, she's so pretty. She is Sif and her golden hair. In Norse mythology, the goddess Sif, wife of the mighty Thor, god of thunder, was blessed with long golden hair and her husband loved it. Odin's eye. Odin sacrificed an eye but gained a more sacred, divine level of wisdom and return. Edon and her golden apples. Edon keeps the golden apples that maintain the eternal youthfulness of the gods. Thor's fishing trip. Thor rows out to sea with Hymir to go fishing. He tears off the head of one Hymir's giant oxen to use as bait. Sigurd and the dragon. A man who achieves what he was destined to do. And what is the comprehensive information of Norse mythology? Norse mythology refers to the Scandinavian mythological framework that was upheld during and around the time of the Viking Age. See that 790 1100 CE, complete with a creation myth that has the first god slaying a giant and turning his body parts into the world, various realms, spread out beneath the world tree. Yggdrasil, Yggdrasil, and the eventual destruction of the known world in the Ragnarok. The Nordic mythological world is both complex and comprehensive. Its polytheistic pantheon, headed by the one-eyed Odin, contains a great number of different gods and goddesses who were venerated in custom integrated into the ancient Scandinavians' daily lives. Next slide, please.
So, good afternoon, everyone, especially to Doc Manuel and for the rest of the class. So, I am Kara Perpetua and I am here to continue the discussion of Miss Perez, which is all about literary background of Norse mythology. But in my part, I am assigned to tackle or to discuss perhaps the gods, the goddesses, and including the giants of Norse mythology, as well as the location of Norse mythology. So let's get started with this one. So on top of my discussion, let us know first what is Norse mythology. So I already knew that Ms. Perez already tackled about Norse mythology. She already explained it to you what is really Norse mythology, and I will just give some additional information on it. So Norse mythology refers for the Scandinavian mythological framework that was upheld during and around the time of Viking age c. 790 to 1100 CE. So when we say Scandinavian is a sub-region in Northern Europe and strong historical culture and linguistic ties. So in English, Scandinavian can be defined as to Denmark, Norway, and Sweden. So sometimes more narrowly to the Scandinavian peninsula, or broadly include the islands, the Faroe Island, the Finland, as well as the Iceland. So basically, Norse mythology is the body of the myths to North Germanic peoples, stemming from Norse paganism and continuing after Christianization of Scandinavia. So that is all. Moving on for our topic, so I have here the examples of Norse mythology. As what I have said earlier, that my topic will include the gods and giants, the goddesses as well, the location of Norse mythology. So the first goddess that I've got in Norse mythology, I have here Goddess Freya. So Goddess Freya is a goddess of fate and destiny. So Goddess Freya is the owner of the necklace named Brisingamen, and Brisingamen, it is a brilliant golden necklace possessed by the goddess Freya. Like all treasures of Norse mythology, Brisingamen was created by the dwarfs, which is the master craftsmen. So she has superhuman strength, the endurance, durability, and can speak in languages of 10 realms. So she can also be wild, powerful magic. So next is Odin. So Odin is the king of Aesir god, and he is the primary father god in Norse mythology. So Odin is a god of war and a dead. So he rules over Valhalla. Valhalla means the whole of the slain, and all Vikings who died in the battle belongs to him. So they're going to collect the dead body of the Vikings by his female handmaiden. He also called Valkyries. So next is Thor. Thor is the loyal defender of Asgard and the god of thunder. So Thor is the son of Odin and Thora, and he uses his abilities as the god of thunder to protect Asgard and planet Earth alive. Asgard is one of the places in Norse mythology, so we're going to discuss that later on. So we have here Ymir. So Ymir is a giant, and he is the ancestors of giants, who was created by the eyes of Nephem combined with the heat of Muspelheim. So Ymir is basically the father of all giants. We already know that, and he is the first giant, and he eventually turned to evil. So the assumptions that her power came directly from evil, since he was whipped out all the forces during their war against the aliens. Next is Vidar. Vidar is a god of vengeance, justice, and primitive nature personification. He is the son of Odin and giantess Gridr. So, Vidar is one of the younger generation of gods who survive Ragnarok. So, Ragnarok is the final destruction of the world in the conflict between the Aesir and the giant wolf son, Fenrir. So, Vidar was the strongest among all the gods except her brother Thor. Next is goddess Frigg. So Frigg is the goddess of the sky, and Frigg is the queen of Asgard, and she is the goddess of her home, which we called Fensalar, which means whole of marshland. Her name comes from the verb freja, which means to love. Next in line is Balder. So Balder is the god of light, joy, purity, and the summer sun in Norse mythology. So he is the son of God Odin and goddess Frigg. So Balder, his power includes superhuman strength, superhuman speed, superhuman endurance, and longevity. He is the wisest of all gods. Balder exuded charm and was physically beautiful, that he gave all of light. So next is Idun. So Idun is the goddess of spring and the wife of Bragi. So Idun also spelled as Idun or Idona. So she was the keeper of magic apples of immortality, which the gods must eat to preserve their youth. Next is Tyr. So Tyr is the god of war and the bravest of the Norse gods of Germanic people. Tyr is a brave warrior and a member of Aesir tribe. He championed order and justice, and he also lost his arm to Loki's ferocious of spring Fenrir, the giant wolf. Next is Loki. So Loki is the trickiest god, the god of mischief, and he is Thor's villainous half-brother. So Loki is a cunning trickist who had the ability to change his shape and sex. He loves of playing pranks on both his fellow gods and his opponents. No god is said to like Loki because he kills Baldur. So he was not even considered but evil. So we're done with my discussions between god, goddesses, and the giants. Let's now move on to location of Norse mythology. We have here Asgard. So Asgard is the high-placed city of gods built by Odin, the god of the Norse pantheon. So Odin built this place, and Thor is the one who protects. So Asgard is the high place where the Norse god basically live. Muspelheim described as a hot and glowing land of fire, home to fire giants and guarded by Satyr with his flaming sword. So Muspelheim, basically the home of the fire giants, an old enemy of Asur god leads by Odin. So They were led by the mighty giant Satyr, whom the Viking held in the awe and fear. So when we say Satyr, this is the first of the fire giant to emerge from the flames of Muspelheim and the realm of fire. So next is the Jotunheim. So Jotunheim is one of the 9 worlds, the homeland of the frost giants and the rock giants. So um, Loki came from this specific place, but he was accepted by the Aesir god and lived in Asgard until he was accepted by the Aesir and he was punished. So lastly, we have Nidavellir. Nidavellir is the world of dwarves, was known as both Vartalheim and Nidavellir, and its occupants alternatively as dwarves and black elves. So Nidavellir is the homeland of dwarves. So dwarves are master, smith, and craftsmen who live beneath the world. So Nidavellir or Vartalheim was probably thought of as labyrinth, subterranean complex of mines and forges. So thank you for listening. That would be all for my part, and I hope you get some learnings in line with my discussion.
Hi everyone, my name is Merson Papalit, and for today's video, I will be going to discuss about the Norse mythology. The outline topic of Norse mythology is the origins, literary background, the gods, creation and their earliest hero, people arc, stories, folktale and legends, adventure, love, war and families. Definition of Norse mythology is Norse mythology or Scandinavian mythology is the body of the myths of the North Germanic peoples, stemming from Norse paganism and continuing after the Christianization of Scandinavia and into the Scandinavization of folklore of the modern period. The Norse mythology is consists of tales of various deities, beings, and heroes derived from numerous sources from both before and after the pagan period. The source texts mention numerous gods such as the Hammer, wielding humanity, protecting thunder god Thor, who relentlessly fights his foes. The one-eyed raven-flanked god Odin, who craftily pursue knowledge. Freya, who rides to battles to choose among the slain. The vengeful king goddess Sky, who prefers the wolf house of the winter mountains to the seashore. The powerful god Thor, who may calm both sea and fire and grant wild and land. So, the god Freyr, whose weather and farming association, being peace and pleasure to humanity. The goddess Lone, who keeps apples that grant eternal youthfulness. The mysterious god Heimdall, who is born of 9 mothers, can hear grass grow, has gold feet, and possesses most of the surviving mythology centers on the plight of the gods and interaction with several other beings. Then, such as humanity and the Jotnar, beings who may friends, lovers, or family members of the gods. Like any organized religion with a complex worldview, the Norse mythology has creation story that explain where humans and the gods come from. There is also tale for how the world will end. Norse mythology has been the subject of scholarly discourse since the 7th century when cave texts attracted the attention of the intellectual circles of Europe. By way of comparative mythology and historical linguistics, scholars have identified elements of Germanic mythology. Some of the examples of the Norse mythology: the story of the birth of the cosmos is as unusual and colorful as all the gods and world that have been born into it. Example: Example is Thor, son of God. Second is Odin, made god in Norse mythology. Loki, great god. Freya. The first Norse mythology is the god's creation and the earliest hero. Example: From the Greek gods to the Roman gods and to the Norse gods, the Greeks did not believe the gods created the universe. The children of Titans were the gods. The gods live in Olympus where there is no rain. The second one is the earliest hero mythology. It is the Phoenician prince Cadmus, a grandson of Poseidon, was the first Greek hero and a founder of Thebes. The period spans roughly 6 generations, and the heroes denoted by the term are superhuman. The last one is comprehensive information. That is, the Greek created gods in image of humans, that is, their gods had many human qualities even though they were gods. The gods constantly fought among themselves, behaved irrationally and unfairly, and were often jealous of each other. My understanding about the Norse mythology is the differentiate from Greek mythology, and the Norse mythology is the big difference between Greek and Norse mythology is that the gods in Norse mythology are a lot closer to mankind. They get hungry, they get hurt, they die, whereas Greek gods have very little physical connections to mankind. Both are leading of father gods. Zeus is a lot modern and definitely more professions. So that's it, everyone. I hope you learned a lot of my discussion, and thank you for listening.
Hi guys, I'm Joanna May Pacanya and I was assigned to tackle about the popular stories, folklore, and legends about the Norse mythology. So before we tackle about these stories, I will just give you a short recap about what is folklore and legend. So folklore is the expressive body of culture shared by a particular group of people. It encompasses the traditions common to that culture, subculture, and or group. Next is legend. So, legend is a genre of folklore that consists of a narrative featuring human actions perceived or believed both by teller and listeners to have taken place within human history. So, our first story would be Thor's fishing trip. So, I will not give you or I will not narrate the story, but I will just give you a short summary instead. So, Thor is the god of thunder and lightning in Norse mythology. Associated with strength, storms, hallowing, and fertility, he is also the son of Odin and Juru, the personification of the earth, and is the strongest of the Aesir. So, before Thor rows out to the sea with Hymir to go fishing, he tears off the head of one of Hymir's giant oxen to use as bait. The two fishermen go far out from land. Both Eddas emphasizes the great distance they row into the ocean. With the ox head as bait, they, at the end of this fishing line, Thor snares the innermost world-encircling serpent Jormungand. The thunder god struggles mightily to land the creature, pulling so hard on the line that his feet go through the bottom of the boat and push against the seabed. The thrashing of the serpent causes giant waves to crash over the boat and all the ancient earth to collapse. Hymir panics and cuts the line. As Jormungand sinks back into the waters, Thor throws his mystic hammer into the water after the serpent. Second story was about Seth and her golden hair. Seth was a giantess, goddess of grain and fertility, and one of the Ascinger. She was the mother of Ul, the god of archery, skiing, and single combat. Seth was Thor's second wife, and Ul was his stepson. She is the beautiful wife of Thor and had long, thick, wondrous golden hair that flowed down her back like a field of corn. So in the story, Loki cut off Seth's hair, every single lovely lock, and her head was totally bare. So third story would be about Fafnir. So Fafnir in Nordic mythology, name of the great dragon slain by Sigurd, the Norse version of the German hero Siegfried. As told in the Volsunga or Saga of the Volsung, Fafnir slew his father Ritmar to obtain the vast amount of gold which Ritmar had demanded of Odin as a compensation for the loss of one of his sons. Odin gave the gold but put a curse on it. Full of greed, Fafnir changed into a dragon to guard his treasure and was later slain by the young hero Sigurd. So, next or the last story was about the death of Baldir or Baldur. Old Norse Old Norse Balder in Norse mythology, the son of the chief god Odin and his wife Frigg. Beautiful and just, he was the favorite of the gods. Most legends about him concern his death. Icelandic stories tell how the gods amused themselves by throwing objects at him, knowing that he was immune from harm. The blind god Hod, deceived by the evil Loki, killed Balder by hurling mistletoe, the only thing that could hurt him. After Balder's funeral, the, the giantess Thok, probably Loki in disguise, refused to weep the tears that would release Balder from death. So that is all. Thank you for listening.